Hello and welcome to St Pancras Basin on London's Regent's Canal. Once an industrial transport hub and gasworks, today there's plenty to whet the appetite of our 8 eager landscape artists. Can they do it? Yes, they can now. It's a brand new episode of Landscape Artist of the Year.
It's Heat 4, and a fresh batch of 8 artists are facing a daunting and frenetic cityscape.
I'm looking at all these trains, planes, automobiles and getting a little bit stressed, to be honest.
And they'll have to pull out all the stops to blow us away.
It's the only time I ever use a hairdryer.
As always, they'll be working under the watchful gaze of our 3 judges.
I love talking to painters. We see stuff
In a different way.
Who will also be keeping an eye on our 50 wildcards. Sorry, make that 51 wildcards.
Are you both left-handed?
No, just me.
Just you, OK, yeah.
This year's prize is a £10,000 commission to paint a landscape in the south of France, a region which has inspired some of the world's greatest artists. Our winner will follow in the footsteps of Van Gogh, Monet and Cézanne to create an artwork for London's prestigious Courtauld Gallery. So join us as we continue the search for the next Landscape Artist of the Year.
As a painter, would you touch this view with a barge pole?
Very good. I'll jump on a boat and get out of here.
Competing in today's heat are full-time artist Ruth Bateman, who's travelled here from Devon, digital sculptor Phil Hosking from Whitstable, Nottinghamshire-based artist Susan Isaac, and Bassam Andari, an editorial consultant living in Harrow.
Painting has been my dream all my life. I did a different job for a long time, but painting was always on the side, and I think the time has come.
Also being put through their paces today are Frome-based printmaker Tim Slatter, part-time artist and carer Tina Trimmer from Berkshire, Andrea Stables, an artist living in Liverpool, and fine art graduate Vlada Popescu, who lives in London.
I think I'm quite competitive. I grew up with a twin and we were competing with each other quite a lot. So yeah, I'm really ready to start. Let's go.
The artists were all chosen by the judges on the strength of a submission landscape, which they brought along today to display in their pods.
It's a good start.
Artists, I hope you're feeling prepared for today's challenge. Your 4 hours starts now.
The landscape facing today's artists could be one of our busiest and most complex yet. Our pods are lined up along the towpath of London's Regent's Canal, looking out towards the main railway line into King's Cross St Pancras, with imposing gas holders, a Victorian water tower and a nature reserve.
I'm a printmaker and etcher. I'm not doing that today because we've only got 4 hours, so I'm going to try and make the same look, but with pen and ink and watercolour wash.
Tim Slatter is a printmaker who specialises in etching. His submission, depicting a glacial valley in the Lake District, was created in 2 weeks and is a single-plate etching on steel.
Tim, you've taken off like a rocket. I mean, it's incredible. This looks amazing, but it isn't printmaking, is it?
It's not printmaking. I thought, what can I do to get the same sort of look in 4 hours?
Yeah.
My process today is to try and replicate the feel of my style using acrylic washes to lay base colours down and then draw in over the top with pen and ink to get that detail.
I'm getting sort of medium overload here. This is insane. Now, Tim, your submission is startlingly beautiful and feels geological, prehistoric. devoid of human activity. And I think we've got quite the opposite here.
You've certainly given us quite the view, haven't you? I mean, this is quite challenging. So not only have I had to do a new style, but I've had to come into urban landscape and go, how do I do that?
The water and the reflections in that are drawing my eye in, so I'll be focusing on that, I think, but trying to kind of loosely capture the entire scene as well.
Digital sculptor Phil Hosking creates action figures for the toy industry when he's not busy painting. His submission of the River Stour is in acrylics and took 2 days to complete.
Phil, I love this. I think you should stop, go home now. As far as I'm concerned, you've won. And you've gone really high up on the canvas.
I think because I want to focus on the water.
OK.
I'm seeing the reflections and I'm thinking I can make a lot out of what's going on down there. There's some nice big blocky shapes to get my teeth into.
Well, of course you wouldn't avoid it, yeah, because your wonderful reflections in your submission there, you feel at home with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, don't mess it up because it's a really good start.
I know urban canals are not what you'd call classically beautiful, but I love them. I think there's so much going on.
Yeah. Especially here. I remember when this was just a wasteland.
I mean, in it, though.
And now we're surrounded by high-rise apartment blocks and high-speed trains going to Europe. And it's overwhelming, I would say. And I think the view is overwhelming as a result of that.
All these delicious ingredients to choose from. Are there pitfalls they could fall into?
Interestingly, we're standing here with all these different elements. I think where the danger lies is when you put the elements in your painting and the space doesn't make sense. It's trying to make it logical and readable. That's the one they've got to get.
Having all the history here is a really lovely boon. I'm really trying hard to get the gas holder edge in, so if I can work with that and bring in a little bit of reflection in the water, then that will be ideal.
Susan Isaac worked as a surveyor of industrial and historical sites before becoming a full-time artist. Her submission, painted in oils, features her preferred impasto style and depicts the view between two colleges at Cambridge University.
I love the fact that you've turned sideways and you're giving us this fantastic slice, so we're really getting to see the gasworks. From what you've done, with the lack of information at this stage, particularly in this colour palette, it feels like it kind of be a Whistler's view.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to convey the industrial aspect of the site, so yeah. Dark and moody and
Dark and
broody.
moody, yeah. I mean, there was something very moody about your submission that we're really taken with. You know, there were obviously contemporary signs within it, but the feeling was something that transported us to a different era. I suppose we might anticipate a bit of the same thing then today, if you're interested in the historic elements.
Yeah, hopefully. So I'm hoping to add a bit of texture and a bit of drama.
So what about the sky? You've left a big space for it.
Yeah, no, it's all to play for with the sky. I don't know what it's going to do.
Okay, still some decisions to make.
Yeah, still plenty of decisions.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the layout of the water and the canal in relation to the paths and the buildings in the right place at the moment. I really enjoy doing very big distance. The longer the river is on the painting, the more real it looks.
Seasoned plein-air painter Tina Trimmer visited the maze at South Hill Park over 20 times to complete her carefully composed submission of a place where her children spent many happy summer days.
Tina, let's talk about your very beautiful submission, which takes place in a very quiet, romantic, secluded, sort of maze-like a garden. Is that your natural habitat?
It's still busy, so not as loud as here.
Okay.
But once you start painting, you sort of get in the zone anyway.
Have you been able to pick out something that you want to paint?
I love nature, so everything's got trees in it, and I'm concentrating on the water as well.
Okay.
And I might try and put a little bit of the curve in with the trees here.
The curve of the modern building at the back there as well?
At the back as well, yeah.
Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because I thought, that you might find that you wanted to block all those things out, that you would go only for the old. That isn't...
No,
not necessarily. I look forward to seeing that appear.
Yeah, it will, hopefully.
Just behind our pods, another gang of artists are now arriving. It's our 50 wondrous wildcards, who are setting up in the mirrored circle of Gasholder Park.
I tend to paint more rural than urban spaces, so it's a bit of a change, but I think it's a fun one.
Having watched the programme for quite a long time, I thought, am I good enough to enter this? But, hey, what have I got to lose?
Just one of these wildcards will have a chance to go forward for a coveted place in this year's semi-final.
How's it going?
It's the bones of it at the moment.
Right, so what are you doing? You're embracing the buildings?
Yeah, someone put the pods in the way of what I wanted.
It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How are you feeling about this location?
This is my first time painting outside.
Oh, your first plein air
Yeah,
experience.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
like
and
thrust into King's Cross. I love it.
I had to push really hard in that first hour to get here, so I can start to enjoy it a bit more now.
I'm feeling really quite comfortable at the moment. I probably shouldn't be, but I've got my structure in, so what will be now. The die is cast.
The water's not particularly calming today because there's a lot of movement in there, and there's a lot of boats going by that are creating a lot for me to work with, and quite a big challenge, to be honest.
Stationed in the heart of London are today's 8 artists. And presented with such an animated cityscape, one artist is very much in their comfort zone.
Today's view is a gift for me, really. I love urban sketching, and I'm a regular urban sketcher. I tend to use a square brush. It's my favourite type of mark making. I just like being able to put down a bold brush stroke, and you get texture in it as well.
Andrea Stables had just finished a session with the Liverpool Urban Sketchers when she stumbled across her submission location. She was taken by the reflections in the cobbles and returned to her studio to commit the scene to canvas.
So your submission, we really liked it because it sort of caught that inconsequential backstreet sort of view. Talk to me a little bit about the pixelation that you used in the sky. Is that a stylistic thing that you introduce in all your paintings?
Yeah, I try not to overblend. So I like that tactile nature of leaving a brush mark where it is.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously in my submission it was in the cloud, which I love doing clouds stylistically. In this, I'm not going to have any sky.
No.
So I'm hoping to capture the similar effects, but with the foliage.
I don't really have a particular style. I think I'm quite intuitive, so I tend to work with a sense of place, and I think I'm probably a colourist more than anything.
Ruth Bateman is a semi-abstract artist from Devon. She painted her submission after a holiday in the Irish countryside and wanted to capture the vulnerability of the wild landscape in the face of growing urbanisation.
Ruth, you've started with loads of colour. We loved your submission for your use of colour. You know, you just put enough description in through the colour that we feel like we could walk through that landscape. It just sits on the right side of abstraction for us.
Yeah.
Are you going to still stick to that today?
I think I've got to stay true to me and actually use my natural instinct of colour and then incorporate things that interest me so that it will be expressive and obviously very loose.
So you're an artist that's going to navigate this not through a kind of literal, realistic
no way.
journey through, but very much through feeling, expression, like what's interesting to you.
Definitely.
Well, listen, I think it's off to a very beautiful start. I think you're going to give us a very Ruth version of today, and that's
You're
exciting.
going to definitely get a Ruth version.
Good.
This lovely orange building in front of us stands out. There's a lot of grey colours around it. That will be my focus. And I'll see what I can build around it.
Bassam Andari is a realist artist who favours moody landscapes with strong contrasts in light and shade. His oil painting of a street scene in Harrow took 20 hours to complete.
So, Bassam, we've given you everything.
Almost everything.
Tell me what you've decided to paint.
I decided that this lovely orange building is probably the brightest in the whole scene, so it can be the focus of the painting, and possibly the light reflection on it will give it some interest.
Let's talk about your submission. We loved the light in there. It's this very strange light. Is it winter light, or is it...?
It's end of summer, but the sun was very low, and there was a lot of colour in the sky, and that actually was very inspiring.
Well, you talk a good painting.
I hope I paint that as I talk.
I feel like if I don't get the composition right and all the measurements, it might get my process a bit harder and more challenging. But painting on bigger canvases, I think it will allow me more freedom with my brush strokes, and I'll be more loose.
Vlada Popescu recently moved to London and finds the city a constant source of inspiration. In her submission, she aimed to highlight the beauty of everyday objects, such as a rusty bicycle she spotted on a street corner.
Vlada, what we loved about your submission was it was this very sort of unprepossessing little scene that you chose with the bike against the railing. Your submission is much smaller than the work you've made today.
Yeah.
Why have you gone bigger?
I think, you know, even with the smallest pieces, I spent so much time on the details. Whilst on bigger canvases, I'm like more free and like more loose with my brush strokes.
You've gone bigger to put less detail in. Are you so far resisting the urge to make this over detailed?
I started doing a lot of details on the boat, and I'm like, okay, you need to like focus on the water a bit more, because there's a lot going on in the picture, so I need to kind of spread out my
your attention and energy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over in Gasholder Park, our wildcards are definitely finding their groove.
I like watercolor because it's sort of like jazz music for me. You improvise and you never know what result you're going to achieve.
Hello, H. How's it going?
Hello. It's going okay.
Just shedding.
I'm shedding lino-cut shavings.
And look at
So
all
I'm
the
doing-
Japanese markings on this.
This beast has cut me several times in the past. She's a beast. I
Is
call her
she?
Monster.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Why? Because she's so big.
She's given me lots of scars.
Really?
Yeah. If I slip, you know, like today, because when it's warm, the lino gets a bit crumbly, so you might catch me bleeding on television.
Who knew lino cut was so dangerous?
Exactly.
Do you know, the thing about printmaking is that sometimes I find the actual thing that you're making the print on as interesting. I mean, what would you do with that afterwards? Just wipe it clean?
Yeah, it's just kind of sad to like
It's
get rid of it
so
all.
sad. It's so gorgeous, though.
I've taken too long doing one specific part of my painting, so I'm going to just try and widen my scope now and get the whole thing covered as quickly as I can.
You always feel like you're behind because you never know how it's going to go. So, you know, it'd be nicer to be further on, but we'll see. Anything can happen.
So that middle bit's going to stay empty. I could over-fuss it And I don't want to do that. You could just absolutely ruin it in one fell swoop.
I look forward to completing it without collapsing.
In London, 8 artists are 2 hours into today's competition, and it's time to make some key decisions.
I can't believe it's now halfway through the time. I thought I'd be a little bit further on. So the next bit is more about colour choices, getting those really accurate colours. So when I'm working with the reflections, those colours have got to be matched really well.
How are you getting on?
I'm all right. Much better than when I started.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's good enough.
What's the issue? What are you worried about?
I haven't done all the details I want to do and the color variations.
I quite like when I work on the sky to be very loose and, you know, a lot of movement going on. And I really want to give off a few more ripples in the water.
But for Tina, the complex view isn't all she has to contend with.
Stop with this.
Yeah.
You're running out of time.
No, I know. I'm
Like-
just leave me alone.
So, King's Cross or King's Happy?
I mean, it's glorious. The architecture's fantastic. The noise, everything's going on. The people, it's brilliant.
Tina has just been told by her daughter to hurry up.
I mean, Tina has been so laid back. And she's got this lovely composition that she's put together, and I think it'll only come together at the very last minute.
I like Tina's perspective. We're kind of floating above the canal, and I like the narrative that produces. The problem with lifting the landscape up like that, of course, on the right, she hasn't worked out what she's going to do with the rest of it, so the space isn't connecting at the moment.
Tim's having fun with perspective. He says he's having a great time. Do you share the joy?
Well, I was really surprised when I went in and looked at Tim's work because I thought he was making a print because the marks that he's made are so strident and deep. And it's interesting to take that print language and put it into a painting.
At the moment, I like the space, but it feels very Mediterranean to me somehow. You know, we're missing out on a bit of dirt or grit.
Yeah.
It's so well organised.
The big question with Tim, he's finished. He's done. He's going to stop.
Well, me and Ty think he should spend the afternoon messing it up a bit. So he's got some work to do for me and Ty.
Oh, okay.
Andrea is worried that her composition is a little flat. It lacks a bit of depth. Would you agree with that?
I love Andrea's work. What's really exciting is when you see an artist who's confronted with loads and loads and loads and loads of stuff, and they pick the weirdest bit that I would definitely edit out. I just really hope that she doesn't overwork it.
Susan's busy with her palette knife.
Yeah.
I know that is not your favourite tool.
I like Susan's take. There's a real grittiness and inner city feel to it, and I just love that. But you can't do anything with the sky without messing it up.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think she's created a real rod for her own back because I can't see what language sits next to that.
Vlada, unusually, has given us a painting today that's way bigger than her submission.
But it's counterintuitive because you think that a bigger picture takes longer, but for her, she gets so caught up in detail. She doesn't want to do that today.
I feel like she's going so slowly. I want to see where it's going to get to because she has positioned everything, but they're so ghostly at the moment.
Phil's submission was a study in reflections, and today he's found reflections again.
I think what Phil's done is really great. It's very, very strong. I love the way in which he positioned the horizon very high up in the sky.
It's still in that phase where it's nice. I need a bit more than nice.
Bassam's submission was a study in light. Today, does he have the grip on the light?
His submission really lived off it being this like great sunset picture and this kind of strange yellow colour. He's not going to be able to achieve that today, and I don't know that he has found his thing in the landscape.
Ruth says she's at the stage of painting where she doesn't like it. How do you feel about it?
What I liked about Ruth's reaction to the scene in front of her and the chaos was to just put patches of colour down. And early on, it made sense to me.
Well, she's also doing that scratchy thing that people do as well, which...
Scratchy
Well,
thing.
going in and scratching with the end of the paintbrush, you know, to sort of delineate form.
Well, I know that she's appearing on Scratchy Artist of the Year in a few months, so I look forward to seeing her there.
I've worked my way across the canvas. I'm putting in some more darks, and I'm working on the boat at the moment to try and get the tones right on there. It's quite tricky because the boat I'm painting is quite old and the paintwork's very faded on it, so getting that right is quite tricky, really, but I'll give it a go.
My painting's looking a bit like a carnival, and I quite like that. I think the colours represent the kind of almost chaotic, vibrant, buzzy energy here. Even though I don't know what to do next, I'm pretty happy with the way it's evolved.
When I saw it before, you had the yellow background and you were working with that harmony of yellow and black.
Yes. So the sky was the last major thing I've put into it, and I wanted to have a sense of the heat of the day, keep the sense of the sort of industrial drama, if you like.
Although it's a different colour, it's the same mood, isn't it?
Yeah, I've kept it pretty dark. Yeah, sorry.
Over the last 150 years, the area around King's Cross and St Pancras has changed dramatically. Initially shaped by the Midland Railway Company, the district has more recently become a byword for sustainable redevelopment.
The basin was built in the early 1870s by the railway company so that it could offload coal from Derbyshire, Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire into barges and then onwards for distribution around London. The Midland Railway wanted to make a real statement in the architecture alongside the railway so that their first-class passengers could see that they were in good hands.
But the basin's heyday was short-lived. The invention of the combustion engine made it easier and cheaper for goods to be transported by road.
It's really at the end of the 19th century you begin to see a terminal decline. At one time, this entire area was derelict, but now you see the transformation over time.
Regeneration started in the 1980s with the transformation of an old coal yard into Camley Street Nature Park, after a grassroots campaign. More recently, the Coal Drops Yard and Gasholder Park redevelopment has provided a vibrant new retail and residential complex.
For me, in terms of how the regeneration here has been achieved, I think it's the very best in terms of restoration of buildings which are worth keeping, but without being slavish about it. I think it's an amazing achievement.
Over in Gasholder Park, our wildcard challenge is nearing an end.
Oh, that's really lovely as well. That's beautiful.
Hello.
Hello.
I want to be there. Funny enough, I am there, but this looks much more enticing. Are you a romantic at heart?
A little bit, but I also think I hate this architecture. I think it's more of that.
So you're just pretending it's not here?
Yeah, basically just ignoring it.
And with a place in the semi-final up for grabs, one of our wildcards is pulling some strings to get noticed by the judges.
This is good.
I'm okay at pencil work.
Yeah.
But I've never been able to paint. So I decided I needed a partner who could paint.
I see.
I can paint.
You can
can't.
paint. Right, okay.
I splash the colour on, colour everywhere.
Oh, very good, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's quite loose with his
Flowers,
brushstrokes.
yeah.
And do you two argue much about the painting?
I'm trying to concentrate.
Sorry,
Stephen.
excuse me.
You can go now.
Okay.
But only one wildcard, or puppet, can win today's challenge.
I think I might be coming your way, young man. You've won the wild card.
Oh, my God,
Congratulations.
And the winner is Lex Robertson, with his atmospheric depiction of the canal.
Love the bravura, love the tones and the colours. It's got a great sense of place.
Thank you so
well
much.
Well done, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To win wildcards, it's a massive surprise. It was the moment she turned just a couple of painters before me. I was like, is it me? It can't be. I couldn't believe it at all. It's so nice to be surrounded by so many other artists. It's been a really lovely day.
Lex will now go into a pool of wildcard winners, one of whom will secure a pod in the semi-final.
Hello, Tim.
Hello.
Are you finished?
That's the last paintbrush with the last bit of white on it. Yeah.
And that's it? Are you good at knowing when to stop?
No.
Oh, so how come today you suddenly worked it out?
I finally worked it out with all of these lovely people around me.
Oh, you've been listening to the judges? That's a slippery slope, Tim, when you start doing that.
While Tim and I can sit back and relax, the pressure is still on in the other 7 pods.
I've still got to add a couple of trees in. I've got to put some shadows in, windows. Fingers crossed it's going to look okay by the time the hour's up.
It's hotting up now. I've got to finalise it so it's a finished piece rather than a study. You know, I've seen what everyone else is producing and I'm starting to feel like I've got to properly kick this over the line.
I'm feeling very pressured. End of the 3rd hour, yeah, I probably could do with another 3, to be fair.
Eight landscape artists are nearing the end of their 4-hour challenge.
There is a danger of overworking it, and that's kind of what I'm mindful of, that I don't want to ruin the spontaneity and the energy of the painting.
Hello, Phil. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going okay. I need to get some work in here in the background that I think will really help it, because that looks a little bit unfinished, but I'm quite happy to leave the rest of it quite loose.
So are you going to finish on time?
I hope to finish in the time, but I'll have what I've got when the bell goes.
When the fat lady sings?
The fat lady sings.
When the curly-haired presenter shouts?
Yeah.
I think I'll be the happiest if I get the reflections right. I'm still stressed about, you know, not finishing it on time.
Artists, you have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes!
At this stage in the game, I'm trying to figure out whether I should finish things off or leave them rough.
I think I need to just keep going until the last second.
Artists, your time is up. Please stop what you're doing and step away from your artworks.
I found today really exciting. It's a long day. It really put me on my game, and I'm looking forward to a glass of wine.
With the challenge complete, the artists must now wait to discover who will go through to the semi-final and be one step closer to a £10,000 commission for the Courtauld Gallery. This year's winner will follow in the footsteps of some of the most famous Impressionist and Post-Impressionist painters in history, travelling to the south of France in search of its breathtaking landscapes. Dutch painter Vincent van Gogh moved to the city of Arles in 1888, and the surrounding countryside was to inspire some of his greatest works, such as his 1889 masterpiece, Peach Trees in Blossom.
We talk a lot about how artists went to the south of France and kind of became a different version of themselves. And I think probably Van Gogh exemplifies this best. You see him really using colour differently and being much more expressive in his art. I think what's so fabulous about this painting for me is he stops just shy of it being a pattern. He's interested in flattening the picture plane, reducing information down, but he doesn't reduce the feeling. We're looking for an artist who's prepared to go to the south of France, like Van Gogh, like Matisse, like Monet, like those artists, and make it their own, take their painting to the next level, challenge themselves.
It's now down to the judges to decide which of the 3 paintings to shortlist.
My goodness, you'd never know that we were in the middle of one of the most modern parts of London. I feel like I've stepped back into the Victorian period with these paintings. Tina, there are some really lovely loose passages in here. She's got this beautiful sweep in the curve. She really likes those long perspectives that you can get.
I love the underlying narrative of the new and the old, but I do get a sense that once you've gone round that curve, what's beyond, you don't understand what happens. But I think in terms of the feeling of today and the light, I love it.
Yeah.
I've got problems with Tim's work.
Oh, really?
I know you like it a lot.
I do.
There's an emptiness and there's a stylization which I find alien.
I love the abstraction of it, I suppose. That lovely sweep of the water. You can sort of skim a stone across, and I think it's lovely and fresh.
So Andre's an artist who knows how to create a narrative, and I think it's so cleverly devised.
I just wonder if it's a little bit too quiet. But she did exactly what she wanted to do. I mean, I just get the sense when I look at this painting, Andrea could see this morning, and then she just painted it.
Yeah. I was so worried about what Susan was going to do with that bit of sky. You know, it's got so much energy in it, and the energy comes not just from the volume of paint, but also the way in which the paint is put on and the way it moves around. It's almost like it's got its own life on the surface of the canvas. But, you know, isn't it interesting that Susan has left the edges slightly undone? And for me, that works really, really well. And then you look at Vlada's, and that doesn't work so well for me. It's partly to do with the fact that it's the white of the canvas.
Yeah. I love Vlada's composition. I think it's very powerful. But I think if you look back to her submission, there was less. So the paint played a larger role, the mark making. Yeah. And here, having blown the whole thing up, there's not enough stuff on there to make the beautiful brush marks, but the bones of it are spectacular.
Phil, I love the position of everything being so high up and the fact that he gave himself lots of water. But it feels very safe.
I think the problem is you and I fell in love with the underpainting.
Yes, that's true.
So we've lost a lover, you know. It was an unrequited love. But I think that there's enough here that's really playful. Bassam was quite focused, and I think the sky is the best bit of the picture. And he really caught this crisp, clear summer sky today. Where it struggles for me is in the foreground.
Yeah, he hasn't worked out the pictorial space. I think he's reacted in sort of realistic way. But having said that, St. Pancras at the back, I mean, it really has that softness. So he knows the rules of painting.
Whereas Ruth, I really didn't think I was going to like this painting because I was like, it's too fanciful. It's not about the place. It's just lots of pretty colours put together. But when I looked really hard at it, all the elements are there.
Well, when you think about an artist like Ruth, you think about someone who's got a kind of raw talent and is very sort of deeply expressionistic, and it's all very much about putting herself in the picture. And then, you know, we're ultimately looking for someone to go to the south of France. All the great artists who worked in the south of France, they find more of themselves and put that into the art, and that's how they pushed art forward.
Yes, of course, it's a sort of madly hallucinogenic canal water that she's given us with all the various colours, but that just makes it all the more interesting.
Artists, it's been a great day and we've really enjoyed watching you all work. The judges have now selected which 3 artists will go onto their shortlist. The first artist is Andrea Stables. The second artist on the shortlist is Susan Isaac. third artist is Phil Hosking. Thanks very much. It's really a pleasure to meet you.
I just can't believe it. I'm so shocked, over the moon. Being shortlisted in and amongst such amazing artists, like the other work was just spectacular. It was such a strong heat, I think. Yeah, just absolutely blown away by it, really.
The judges now have the difficult task of picking today's winner. To help them with their decision, they also examine the shortlisted artists' submission pieces.
Now, Kate, when we spoke at half-time, you said there was nothing Susan could do to make that painting work. And look, lo and behold, here she is in the shortlist of 3. Were you outvoted, or did she pull it out of the bag?
Something remarkable happened. I made a mistake.
What?
Yeah, I was wrong. I can say it. And she came in with this sort of brooding, expressive sky, and the colour range is gorgeous. I mean, I've really fallen in love with this painting.
Her skies are spectacular in both, aren't they?
They are spectacular in both, and I hadn't realised how similar they were. It's almost like she saves it. It becomes the focus.
I like Susan's reduced palette. It's got a strange sort of dark historical heft to it, and I think it comes from that reduction down to the power of the black line and the drawing and the painting. And what makes it, I think, more contemporary is the paint application with the palette knife is ugly. Yeah. Susan's not making things look nice.
You were very impressed with Phil at the halfway point, and he's obviously still impressing you.
Today we're looking at something that's less done than he might normally do. Yeah. I actually prefer it like this. He is someone who has a feeling for a place, and he wants to communicate that.
I mean, I'm falling in love with his submission more and more the more I look at it, because they're both very comforting. They are inconsequential spaces, but they're full of meaning. So I know it looks trad, and I know it feels trad, but I think it's a little bit more sophisticated than that.
Andrea, again, at half-time, we were worried that zoomed in too close.
Yeah.
Could be flat, but obviously impresses you.
Yeah, I was really worried about Andrea over-stylising the trees and the foliage, because I thought it would just be really heavy-handed. I think it's just on the right side of stylisation. She sort of held it back, and I think it works really well.
It's interesting seeing Andrea's 2 paintings side by side, because she's always playing with similar elements to build this very tightly constructed landscape, and she does it very well. I must say, the clarity of her submission, I find, almost pushes it into something too graphic. I like the painterliness more of today's work.
Yeah, I like the language better in today's picture. It's just completely charming in sort of how boring it is, because it is technically a boring subject, like the back end of a barge with a bit of tarpaulin.
Well, thank you for that. I've also got now the title for my autobiography, Charming but Boring. Susan, Phil, Andrea, all 3 of you have done an amazing job today, but only one of you can go through to the semi-final. And the judges have made their decision. The winner of today's heat is... Susan Isaac.
I'm totally shocked and overwhelmed and astonished. Today's work I was quite happy with it. I felt it was as good as I could do in the situation. I gave it my best.
See you in the semi-final. Yes, you have to do it all again.
What a brilliant discovery Susan is. This place is full of history, and Susan was able to capture that without getting caught in detail. Here's a painter going, you know what, I'm going to paint what I feel. You're going to recognize it, but you're going to be aware that it's paint. Going forward, that's the kind of artist you want in the south of France. That's exactly what the artists were doing there.
Being the winner today is a huge validation. I know the competition is very stiff, so I'm really thrilled to have been chosen.
If you want to find out more about the competition and the work of the artists featured, visit our website, skyartsartistoftheyear.tv. Next time, we're in the mountains of North Wales.
I'm on track, unless the wind comes along and blows it into some sheep poo.
As 8 new artists come face to face with what was once one of the world's largest slate quarries.
Another 5 hours, it might be okay.
So who'll find a rich seam of inspiration?
I'm actually going for the gash. I'm being brave.
And who will have to dig deep?
So is painting for you a relaxing experience?
Not really.
No?